I'm Caesar Ruest with Autodesk. I'm based out of sunny Toronto. We are at a comfortable 75 degrees. And for the next little bit, I'm going to talk about BIM 360. And, you know, I thought about today's presentation. The best thing I could give you as advice right now is either come back and watch the recording that we're doing here for you today, because this will be recorded. Your second alternative to that, grab a notepad and a pen, because I'm not just talking about a single service from BIM 360. I'm talking about all services that we offer through BIM 360. And realistically, this is a platform that begins during design, and it goes all the way to building handover for operations and maintenance. So we have within its BIM 360 platform about 8 services to which each group that functions along the building life cycle can use. So if you want to stay on top of what we're doing here today, I really recommend a pen and your favorite notepad, just so that you can jot names down. And what we can do afterwards, a later day after today, is if we need to go back and revisit any of this with you, we'd be more than happy to. But there's the best way that you could operate today. So BIM 360, it's all about taking data from design all the way through to construction. And then actually there should be another picture over here, and all the way through over to operations and maintenance. And that's as fancy as the pictures I can draw for you guys today, as far as what I would look like. Now, if you ever go to the Autodesk website, it's hard to make heads and tails of exactly what we offer for BIM 360, but I've put this slide together specifically. I'm all about the KISS rule, and when I try to keep things simple, I like to keep things simple without naming conventions. So you can see for this product life cycle, we start at the beginning of design, and then we go all the way through to design construction drawings. And then from there, we also go through all the way to handover, which is going to trail off to operations and maintenance. But in the beginning, when we talk about our design platform, this is where we have today cloud design administration, which basically means, your principals or some of your project managers that are using up a valuable AutoCAD license or a valuable Revit license, and all they're doing with the Revit license is opening just to view the drawings that you guys are making or the models you guys are making. So instead of that principal or that project manager using, a $2,000 license, get them something that allows them to do markup, commenting, and measuring. Now, for you folks that are using Revit, there's a piece right here that's allowing for a multi-team design within Revit central files that also allows the ability to do cloud measuring, marking up. So these two pieces are within the BIM 360 platform, and I'll show you those names in a second. Further down the food chain, as we kind of move into pre-construction and we move down into construction execution, we have a flurry of services here. And it's not meant that every person use every single service. So for example, over here on the left-hand side, we have architects and engineers that typically use this information here. Now, in this case here, when we move down into this side of the pre-construction and construction, this is where we could start to see the use of some of these services by project architects, project engineers that go out on site, subcontractors who are facilitating, the construction of their specialty, general contractors or construction managers who have to manage people as well as contracts. So over here on the right-hand side, this is where I'm saying we have some tools that some people, not necessarily all people, are going to use. And sometimes it's a matter of choosing the best tool for the job, just like in construction. So over here we have contract administration, which is all about doing CA work where you're not changing any drawings, but you're accessing the contract set. So we got a fantastic tool, which is a nice light tool, easy to use, any device, all about contract administration, commenting, marking up, measuring, doing RFIs, doing issue tracking and such. And this is across a lot of different file formats. And then, subsequent to this too, if you wanted to do some cloud clash detection, and this could be during pre-construction, or even, this could actually be used during design, but using the cloud to enable for clash detection and coordination across multidisciplines. So when I'm thinking about design, it's architects versus engineers and coordinating. And then when it comes into pre-construction, it's all about the fabrication models being coordinated, maybe by a GC or by a contract or a construction manager. Somebody should be coordinating fabrication level detail models. So the structural fab versus the MEP fab, and so on. So this cloud clash detection tool is a BIM 360 service. For MEP, for mechanical electrical piping, or doing any kind of site survey locations. So if you wanted to have the model on an iPad tying in as a data collector for your survey instrument, like a Leica or TopCon instrument, we have a tool that allows us to do that as well. Further into this BIM 360 service, for more of the project managers, we have, you might be using a Microsoft project or a P6 or something like that. Well, what about the pull planning? What about lean construction methodologies? If you want to get into some pull planning or, a 1 week or 2 week lookout, we have a cloud tool which facilitates this quite nicely as well. Down here, if you're looking for really heavy lifting, workhorse, long-term project, complex projects, contract admin, that includes things like punch list, commissioning, QA, QC, equipment tracking, we have a full-on heavy workhorse tool that allows for this deeper level of construction administration. So, up here, I said we've got one CA tool and we have another one down here. I don't like to call this light, like I've had some people say this is almost like a lighter version of CA. This CA tool up here is a lighter version of this compared to this other CA tool down here. But we have basically a tool that addresses different groups' needs. And then lastly, I pulled on the thread a little bit. I said, we go all the way with BIM 360 services, all the way into maintenance and operations. And this is where the introduction of building ops really comes into this kind of situation. So overall, these are lay terms, and here's what the roadmap really looks like in Autodesk license names. So for example, on the design side, BIM 360 team. This is that cloud, using it from an iPad or iPhone to do cloud design administration like marking up and measuring. Collaboration for Revit, which I've spoken about and presented with Microsol a number of times. Collaboration for Revit is specifically central file repository. The repository actually turns out to be the team site above here. But C4R is meant for the Revit people out there who are using Revit in a central file capacity to do real-time collaboration on a Revit environment platform. And then Docs is that CA tool. I called it CA Lite. And then down here was Field, which is your CA workhorse. And in between is the model coordination and glue. This is your data collector, which ties into a TopCon or Leica survey instrument called Layout. Your pull planning is Plan, BIM 360 Plan. This is your pull planning mechanism. And building ops, this is it's actually called BIM 360 Ops now. We shortened it down to just BIM 360 Ops for your operations and maintenance. And one of the things that I just really want to make clear is that there is certainly workflow built throughout it. And what I hope to show a little bit here today is right from within Revit, you start pushing data into Team. And then right from within Revit, you can push data into Glue, or you can upload your data models into Docs. some of the data transfers, there's a really sophisticated data transfer when you have models that go from glue into field. So for example, equipment tracking, I want to show a little bit about this today, like some mechanical equipment that came from Revit, followed the workflow to glue, got coordinated, followed the road all the way down into field, so that my field, my subcontractor that's installing air handling units installed it, and they updated the status. So the status got updated, and then that can get updated all the way back through each of these models respectively. So there's a real fantastic workflow that really takes place throughout this. So let's splash it up on the screen a little bit here. So this is BIM 360 Team. This is what it would look like, fully rendered models, along with all of the sheets that you see right here. These are all the sheets that have been exposed from the Revit file at your fingertips. Within Docs, this is your contract administration. So the nice thing about Docs is, yes, of course, it's going to understand PDF, which means you don't have to use some other kind of competitor to leverage PDF. You can do it all in Docs. But the one huge differentiator, and this basically helps us to provide a great service to you guys, is that Docs understands and exposes for you Revit and DWG files natively. So what you're seeing right here are actually Revit files. It's a single Revit file, and Docs is exposing all of the sheets and models that you want to share for contract admin. So essentially what you're doing is you no longer need to make a PDF file. If you wanted to get rid of it, you can get rid of that duplication. So RVT and DWG are two huge differentiators that we bring forward within Docs. This is plan. This is your pull planning that I was referring to. It's not fancy, but it certainly can beat. If you've ever gone into a construction trailer and you wondered, like, why do you have an inventory of Post-it notes on the wall to help manage your project? Like, that's kind of cryptic. Everybody's got a cell phone, but you're using Post-it notes to do pull planning and short-term lookouts on a wall. Okay, well, this is plan. This is your digital format of pull planning, really meant for somebody that's managing the project. This is not meant to replace a P6 or Microsoft project. It's meant to complement it, because it does give you the mechanism for short 1 week, 2 week lookouts, or even 6 week lookouts on your project. And it's cloud-based, which means your subs, as project leads, can each go into the cloud and put their own work activities on a week-by-week basis. And then, with a quick click of the finger, move these things around in your pull planning schedule. Now this is glue, and this is, I've had some people say, hey Caesar, how can we get Navisworks on an iPad? And I say it's easy, you buy glue. So to get Navisworks-like functionality, and if you want to take the model with you to the field on an iPad, and you want to mark it up and navigate that model, and if you want to tie your model that you have in the field back to Navisworks, glue really is your choice. So glue has been around for a long time within Autodesk. It's still widely used, but glue is that middle mechanism between Revit and field, that downstream commissioning contract administration tool that I talked about. Glue is also the middleman for layout. Here you have, this is actually an example from PCL Construction. This guy here is from PCL. We've got a video up on YouTube. So if you search PCL BIM 360 layout, you'll see this video, and it shows this guy using, this becomes the data collector tied into a survey instrument. And you can see when I zoom into the rod here, you can see that the rod, as he moves this rod backwards, physical rod, the rod digitally will move around inside of the model to which he's laying out, some walls or some coring that he has to do for that slab. Okay, so layout is a mechanism of glue, the BIM 360 service. And I think it's fair to say we all want to get away from this sometimes. Owners ask for it. We cringe at delivering for it. But here's the as-built document set, or maybe the commissioning data set documents. How about if we get away from doing that and maybe commissioning your buildings or the owner's buildings digitally? So in this case here, this is leveraging Field, and BIM 360 Field helps to manage the model. It also helps to manage the equipment. You can see as you manage the equipment down here, you've got the model number. This is put in by the sub at the time of installation, the installation date, the warranty date, if there was a serial number, who the manufacturer was. But you see, like the model, that comes from Revit. And you don't have to start with Revit, but it's a benefit of that workflow. But when you do it like that, and if you go from Revit to Field, you can check the status of it, and you can say that the status of these things are installed. And from that status, the model can be controlled by color. So if you said, show me the pieces of equipment installed in green, Revit and Navisworks can respect that data field and show you things installed as green, and things that are not installed, maybe on back order, in red. So there's a nice workflow on the data. But let's move forward one more time. When we turn that building over to the owner, on day one of turnover, there needs to be maintenance and operations ready to go in case there's some kind of a failure of equipment. So the operations piece actually leverages the data from Field. So the barcode information, the model information, if there's any models there, it comes through. If there's no models, then it's the drawings. The manufacturing information, the installation, the warranty dates, the warranty, signed papers, all within a mobile cloud device. And lastly, the spec sheets. So this is the Autodesk BIM 360 suite of services. It's, you buy a service to use for a certain individual. So that's how you buy it, that's how you use it. But overall, that gives you a really great example. So let's back it up a little bit and let's clean this up. So let's start at the beginning and let's look really quickly at this collaboration for Revit. And I'm going to jump into Revit Live to show you what it's all about. Here is Revit, and this is going to be your fastest tour of collaboration for Revit. I'm not going into great details, but I'm just sharing with you really quickly. You go from your local desktop, you have a Revit file, and you want to share it out, to architect, to engineer, structure. So maybe you're the mechanical group. And now you can all work from that exact same central file in the cloud. So what we have going on here is I have, I'm Mr. Engineer. Here is my 3D coordination model, just to give you a heads up as to what's going to be taking place. I want to send this out for other people to work on within Revit, right? My Revit family, my Revit team. I've bought collaboration for Revit. So when I buy collaboration for Revit, I'm going to then have access to BIM 360 team. So this is my single sign-on, and the nice thing about your single sign-on is just that you can sign in to multiple Autodesk products with that same user login and password. And this is just a little bit of a preamble. I'm going to go to my project site. And before I invite my architects and my structural engineers to it, I would create a project. So in this case here's my project, May 2107. You see I've got a hospital project and I've got my Ruest home project. But this is the project. I set up the project. I invited some members from my structural community and my architectural community. So I've given them permission to see this information here. And now this is how you start sharing it. So this is where the published views of your Revit files will land, but you'll also be able to host up here your DWGs and your Excel files and your Microsoft documents. But it's just as simple as going to collaborate inside of Revit. And you say, I want to collaborate And how do you want to do it? You want to collaborate using the cloud. So it's taking into consideration, if you follow my cursor, you can see that I'm logged into Revit. I say collaborate using the cloud because I just bought collaboration for Revit, and I say okay. And in this case here, it says, Caesar, where do you want to put it? And I want to put it up to my project, this one here, this 2017 skyscraper, and go, initiate. So from this point forward, it's going to, let's rename it. So let's say that this is going to be October Mechanical, initiate. So it's basically taking this Revit file, creating default work sets, it's making it into a central file, and then it's going to push it to the cloud, and then it's going to save and return a locally cached model. That's it. We are now going to be collaborating in the cloud. So the model itself, the central file, is living in the cloud, and that's what it's saving me is a bunch of upload and downloads. I no longer have to upload to an FTP site and download it from an FTP site. We are going to be, this is as live collaboration, as coordination as you can get, because any time that my architect would change his floor plan, all I would have to do is come up to my toolbar and say, reload the latest. And it would just download just the changes to the architectural floor plans needed for me to see the uploaded or to see their changes. Okay, so instead of pushing up 50 megabytes every time, it will only push up or pull down the delta changes of the central file for my team. And that's it, we're done. So this is going to be in the cloud now, and part of the cloud is all about communication, and this is where we've got this great tool called Communicator, which is built into collaboration for Revit. And this lets the team on Revit talk. You know, it's a chat window. If these guys were online, we could chat with them directly inside of Revit and send screen captures. So for example, I've got some screen captures here in this project. There it is right there. So I use the clipping tool, capture screen, and I put it inside the comment box right here, and I say, this is it. So this communicator also shows things like activity on the project. So every time I save to central, I'll get the activities showing up within this communicator too, and it tells me at a moment's notice, hey, there was no changes done to this plan, we only published it. Or this one says, hey, I linked a Revit room file to this, and so on. So that is collaboration for Revit. This is team, and this is where team is that design, commenting, marking up tool. So whenever I want to dig into a Revit project, I'm the project manager, and I want to take a look at this project file. That one's not done. Let me go to this one here. Whenever I'm the project manager, maybe I'm just on my way to work or I'm just at the coffee shop, I can, open up my phone, take a look at this sheet, and go ahead and use these markup tools. Mark that up, add some text, add some of these different shapes and callouts. You can use cutting tools as well, copy your markup, and so on and so forth. But the nice thing about it is, instead of having a paper trail, what it gives you is a digital paper trail of commenting. So any comments, this red line markup is on version 1 of this central file. So a lot of great tools as marking up and measuring. And like I said, instead of your project manager using a Revit file, instead of them using a Revit license or an AutoCAD license just for viewing, that's like $2,000 flushed down the toilet. So give them access to BIM 360 team so that they can do their markup and measuring. Okay, so let's fast forward now. So if you like that, make a note. Hey, we want to talk about C4R more with Microsol and BIM 360 team. Let's fast forward. Let's go into glue and field, because that's the one workflow I really want to show you here. So in glue, we want to coordinate more, like 3D coordination, clash detection in the cloud. This is where you're going to use the add-in for glue and say, I want to glue this. And I want to put this up to my project in space. And I want to send it to my Autobahn project. and I want to glue this 3D coordination model, right? So again, the ask, you asked me, hey, is there a way I can do 3D coordination in the cloud? And this is it. You coordinate, you send this model up to the cloud, and you can rename it here too, so October 2018. And I'm gluing it up to the cloud now so that when my architects and other design assist partners come into the play, we can all go to the same website and do clash detection at our own convenience. So for example, it's gluing up here right now, it's creating a DWF or a Navisworks file, and it's pushing it up to the Glue cloud. Now it'll come back and give me a message here to say when it's complete. We don't have to stay here watching this. We can just jump to the Glue cloud, and this is what it looks like. So I've made these projects and I've invited my my design team for it. And here's one of the models that I posted up to the cloud just earlier this morning. I'm playing like the role of Martha Stewart, where I mix up the cake and I put it into the oven. It's a wet pile of goo, and then I say 30 minutes passes and my cake's done. I pull the cake out of the oven, and there, your model is being glued. So that's all nice, and this is what it would look like inside the Glue environment. And we would attach to it other models. We would include and going and getting more architectural models to create a merged models. We would merge in the architectural models, but let me show you. Here's the data that comes through. So this is a fan unit. There's the data fields. And when I look at the properties that come from Revit, you will notice object properties and parent properties. 2 columns, and these come from Revit. Now let's fast forward just a little bit here. We coordinate, we bring in the architect's models. We're going to construction. The subcontractor, the mechanical subcontractor, has ordered these rooftop fans. They are about to install them. This is where the status of these rooftop fans can really help out the future construction of this building. This is a simple building, but think about more complex buildings where you're trying to keep the status of moving parts, or parts that are, the construction sequencing can be like a moving animal onto itself. So as we are making the construction of this building, Glue, through the use of field, can actually increase the property data on these fan units. So this is, in the future when we're building it and we look at the status of this equipment, you'll see that now we have a third line item called equipment, and this is being created. This data right here is all created through field. So we're showing Glue, field is the data. This piece of data, if you can see right here, this is under pre-functional performance test, whereas this piece of equipment here has been delivered. Even though it's showing it up in the model, this is exactly where we want it built. But this status, based on the subcontractor, he's telling us that this has only been delivered, it has not been installed, whereas this one has been installed, and we are going through some pre-functional performance tests. So this is really a fantastic example. And if I took it one step further, I can bring this model to colorization and show things in green being installed and signed off, and things on back order or things on delivery being in red. So we've got this great functionality to be able to share with you here. So return air is sky blue, for example. Let's take a look at that view. So now that whole view changed. There's my return air, and it's in sky blue. This is what I mean by color coordination based on properties or status. This is Glue, and then field is also that accompaniment to it as well. So if you like that workflow, mark down Glue and field, controlling the status of equipment for commissioning purposes. So let's take a look now at this PowerPoint one more time. And we're right here. So we've talked about glue, we've talked about field a little bit. Let me show you. This is field. These are your BIM 360 icons on your iPad. Here is field in a nutshell from your iPad. Going in, creating issues, checklists, daily updates, equipments. This is where that equipment, that air handling unit that you would see, would be located right here. Going to the equipment, checking out things like screw chillers. You'll see that you've got like the details, any checklists that have to be assigned to this chiller, screw chiller before it's installed. Looking at this checklist, we can open this up, run through the checklist, pass, fail, true, false, yes, no. And in the end, this will create punch list items for us that we have to address. We can also associate things like future attachments, like photographs of the pump on site or photographs of the equipment on site. Of course, you've got your signatures capability. And then lastly, skipping forward a little bit, show this to me in the model. And this is where this model that comes all the way from Revit through Glue helps that commissioning process. So field really is that workhorse that is allowing you to do these functions. Carry with you your library of drawings, of course. Let's not forget our drawings, going into our architectural set and choosing any of these drawings that we wanted to accord ourselves to. Essentially, that's where field becomes that real workhorse. Now let's fast forward a little bit here, because I said field could be the workhorse, but maybe, for a project architect or engineer, that's too much. Maybe some contractors, that's too much. How about something that's lighter for contracted men? And this is where I really want to highlight docs for you. And I'm just going to stay on the iPad to show you docs. So right within my app for docs, maybe this is all you're looking for, is that ability to sign into your account. And so I'm going to just take a moment, Caesar, and then typing in my password as well. So almost there. So here we go. So this interface is exactly the same on your phone. It's exactly the same on the desktop. And right here, you can see we've got our folder structure in place. We're in the plans view. We can jump into any model that we wanted to, or any any drawing sheet. But you see a lot of information here. Right here, this drawing sheet, this is all one Revit file, and the sheets are exposed. So essentially, the moral of the story is, don't tell anybody. If they're scared of BIM and they're scared of models, don't tell them. Just say, go to Docs on your phone, access the site, and take a look at the drawings. You can see that this drawing has 5 issues, it has 7 markups, and it has 8 RFIs. Just clicking on this thing with my finger brings up that sheet. The nice thing about Docs is you can work online or offline, and it can work on any of these devices, on or offline. And within Docs environment, it is the modern interface, which is really directly competitive with some of our other friends down the road. So within our interface, that differentiator for Autodesk is you are looking at a Revit file, not a PDF. Even though we can look at PDFs the exact same way as what you see here, this is a true RVT file. And within the environment, these push pins are really issues. So right down here is the plus sign for adding a markup, an issue, or an RFI, or turning the visibility of these things on or off. So let's go ahead and add an issue. So I would zoom in, for example, and I would put an issue right there, and it puts a push pin right there. And this is where you would see at the top of your screen now, you're creating an issue. It's on the ground floor, and this is where you assign responsibility. And I can say, you know, I'm going to give it to, this is like my other brother, Daryl, right here, my other brother, Caesar. And date due, let's say that's going to be due on the 6th, this Friday. And then we can say enter a title, and we can say corner detail. So architect, engineering, contract admin, this is where we have our customers using it. Subcontractors, project leads, construction managers, general contractors, they also use it in the same regards here. Is this drywall or wood? So this could be just a general question, but there is an RFI tool that works exactly the same. The only difference is that this issue piece is that we can keep the issues private, or we can make them public to the team. And then we can also put into the issues, you can see way down here, this little paper clip, we can grab from it, from the camera of your device or from the library on your device. So we could take a picture right now. So let me take a picture of there's my stapler right next to me, boom. And I would use that one photo. You can see where it says use one photo, that's cool. And now that picture is assigned with that issue, and we can attach more information, like under the comments or information piece, and then send that as an open issue. You can see how it changed its color from gray to yellow now as well, and then saving it. So issues, RFIs made the same way. Measuring, we can measure Revit, DWG, or PDF, doesn't matter. And now we can also see within the iPad that this is version 2. But historically, we'll get to see everything that we've been viewing on our iPad on this nice historical button as well. So let's save this out, and let's kind of come back to our desktop here for a second. Move this out of the way. And let's take a look at docs right within our environment. So this is what I was saying, that single sign-on. Now that we're signed in, we can say, I want to go to field, or I want to go to glue, or to plan. Right now, I want to go to docs. So like I was saying, as we're loading up, you would buy this service or any service per user. The nice thing about the service is it's cloud-based. There's no software to install. You can assign a license to a user for a period of time, and then you can revoke it, right? So you get a sub, or a project architect that's working on a job. They use it for the duration of that job, and then when they're done the job and they're moved on to other responsibilities or off the job entirely, then you can revoke it and give it to somebody else. You are in total control of your licenses, and that's how the license model works. Now, the nice thing within docs and this is where you get the visibility. We're in the folders selection. We can view the folders by, naming a list file of names. The PDFs would show up exactly the same. We could view it in a thumbnail view as well. So you can see the versioning. And we could restore back to old versions as well. But you don't have to have the paper trail anymore. That's one of the messages I'm trying to make here. As you change the contract and you amend the documents inside that contract, we will keep historical the old versions and the new versions. And the comments, until they're closed, the comments and markups will continue up into other versions. Once a comment or an issue is closed, it will stop at that issue because you don't want to necessarily see the same red line markup going to version 3, version 4. So this is the index of all of these files for folders. Then we have an index for issues. And we also have an index for RFIs. But like I was saying, if you're a sub and you like docs, you'll never use the RFIs. But if you're a contract manager or a project architect, you will use RFIs, because RFIs follow a workflow. They start with a sub or a GC, and then they move up to a contract manager, and then to an architect for approval and back. But if we keep it simple, here's the details. So here's our index. We can see the ones that are answered, the ones that are draft, and the ones that are open. And you would just, there's that corner detail that I made just a second ago. You click on it, and it says, okay, issue number 21. There's the picture. It's an open issue. Write your official response. We're going to say it's a wood corner detail, and we can mark it as answered. And we can say, please see the attached drawing amended to the contract docs. So this is where you'd click on attach, and you can browse the directory of the project files, and you can find the drawing that was supposed to be associated to it. So you'd look for, go into the folders, and you'd grab the DWG or the image, and you would attach it to this. So picture, it's going to show up as an image, but picture an AutoCAD drawing or a Revit detail. And then you could view this. Where was that push pin on the document? You can view it right here. So there you go. It's going to zoom into it, boom, and it's going to open up that issue number 21, right down in the pharmacy, and it's going to show up here on the menu screen for us to go. Now, the last thing I'm going to show, and I'm going to stick a fork in myself because I'm going to be done. What we have as features, we always compare features, and you guys compare features from us to our competitors, but I cannot leave this without showing you one feature that's absolutely a game changer for us. It's the split view. And within the split view environment, it does just that. And it's killer because it lets people, it's like taking a bath. Sometimes you take a hot bath and you step into it slowly because you don't want to burn your knees. And in this case here, some people don't like models because they're scared of them. So get this, in a plan view here, you can say, where is this wall really located? So when you click on the wall, it'll highlight on the right-hand view that specific wall item. Boom. There's the wall. Okay, that's like pretty slick, and it works in reverse. If you were in the model and you chose something in the model, it'll go to that object specifically inside of the drawing here. So it helps people really get accustomed to things from model view to paper view quite nicely. So when we come into it again, we want to see where this door is. There's the door right there. Now this view on the right-hand side is configurable so that you can say, hey, well, maybe show me where's this door or where's the wall in this elevation. So you could put two pieces of paper side by side. And now you're trying to better understand your project. Let's do the same exercise here. Where's this wall again? Boom, it's right there, just to the left of the health center. Okay, is this the front door right here? You pick it, boom, there it goes right there. This is Revit, and this works only through Revit. You can't do this through PDFs because PDFs are dumb. But this is a Revit file, and built within the properties of this Revit file, of course, this is all the properties coming from that Revit deployment.